Okay, so you're thinking about a foreclosure specialist interview, and gotta admit, this field is not exactly known for being easy.
Hmm.
But hey, that's why we're here. This deep dive is all about getting you ready to totally rock that interview. We've got some really great resources from RoleCatcher Career Guides, sample questions, you name it.
You know what's really interesting about this kind of work? It's a lot more than just numbers and legal stuff. It's really about helping people through a tough time.
And RoleCatcher gets that. They're not just giving generic advice. It's about figuring out how to approach the specific job you want. They've even got AI that looks at job descriptions and helps you tailor your answers. Pretty amazing.
Absolutely. It's like having a secret weapon in your back pocket.
Totally.
Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, what exactly does a foreclosure specialist do?
So basically, they're there to help homeowners who are facing foreclosure. They explain the whole process and try to find other options. It can be a really tough situation, and they're the ones who help people navigate it.
So it's not just about delivering bad news, it's about being a problem solver and finding a path forward.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why nailing the interview is so important. You have to show them you've got the knowledge and the empathy to really excel in this role.
Speaking of nailing the interview, let's jump into some of those make-or-break questions. RoleCatcher's Guide has a ton of them, starting with this one. Can you describe your understanding of the foreclosure process? Seems simple enough, but what are they really trying to figure out?
They want to see if you really get it, not just rattle off a definition. Imagine explaining it to a friend who's completely clueless. Walk them through each step and highlight the important parts.
So it's not just what you know, it's how you explain it.
Exactly. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really help. For example, it might suggest talking about your experience with different strategies depending on what the job description emphasizes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you get hit with this. How do you prioritize your workload when dealing with multiple foreclosure cases? We've all had to juggle to-do lists, but this is a whole other level.
This is where you show off those amazing organizational skills. Don't just say, I'm organized. Give them specifics.
So if I color code my sticky notes, that counts.
Well, maybe. It's more about the system you use. Maybe it's spreadsheets or apps or a good old-fashioned planner. Show them you have a process for prioritizing and nothing falls through the cracks.
So organized chaos is the name of the game.
You got it. And if you're a pro with tools like Asana or Trello, definitely mention that. It shows you're tech savvy.
Okay, I'm taking notes. Next up, how do you ensure compliance with foreclosure laws and regulations? This one sounds a little intimidating even for someone who knows their stuff.
It's true, foreclosure laws can be tricky and they change all the time. The key here is to show that you understand the important regulations and that you're always learning.
So like reading industry publications or taking courses.
Exactly. And again, RoleCatcher's AI can give you an edge. Here, it might suggest mentioning specific certifications if the job description really highlights those.
Like having a personal career coach in your pocket. This is great. Okay, let's tackle another one. Can you describe a difficult foreclosure case you have handled in the past and how you resolved it? This one seems like a chance to really shine.
Definitely. Pick a case that shows off your problem-solving skills. Maybe it involved a difficult homeowner or some unexpected legal issues. Walk them through your process, how you looked at different options and worked to find the best solution.
So even if the outcome wasn't perfect, you can still highlight your skills and dedication.
Exactly. And this is a great opportunity to use keywords from the job description. If they want someone with strong negotiation skills, for example, talk about how you use those skills in this particular case.
It's all about connecting the dots for them, right? Showing them you're up to the challenge.
Hmm?
Okay, this next one feels like it's at the heart of being a foreclosure specialist. How do you handle situations where borrowers are facing financial hardship and are unable to make mortgage payments?
This one's all about empathy. You have to show that you can connect with people on a human level during a really stressful time.
So it's not just about knowing the options, it's about knowing how to communicate them with compassion.
Exactly. Start by acknowledging how tough this situation is, and then describe your approach, active listening, clear explanations, and a willingness to explore every possible solution.
Being that calm and supportive presence in the middle of a storm.
You got it. And don't be afraid to let your genuine empathy shine through.
This is resonating so much with me. You're painting such a clear picture of what it takes to thrive in this role.
And we're just getting started. Let's move on to the next question, which is all about managing those all-important timelines and deadlines.
Right, bring it on.
So RoleCatcher words this one like this. How do you maintain compliance with foreclosure timelines and deadlines? We talked about the legal side, but this is really about staying organized and getting things done.
It's like being a clockmaker, making sure all the gears are turning at the right time. One little slip up, and everything falls apart.
Exactly. And to show them you can handle it, you got to be specific. Talk about the tools you use, calendars, reminders, software, whatever helps you stay on top of things.
So prove you've got a system that's foolproof.
Exactly. And if you've ever used any industry-specific software, now's the time to mention it. It shows you're already one step ahead.
Love it. Okay, let's imagine a situation that probably keeps foreclosure specialists up at night. How do you handle situations where a borrower disputes the foreclosure action? Talk about a curveball.
Definitely. It takes a lot of skill and a cool head to navigate those waters. You
Mhm.
want to start by acknowledging that disputes happen. It's part of the process.
So something like, I understand that disputes are common, and I'd start by really listening to the borrower's concerns and trying to understand their perspective.
Perfect. Mentioning any experience you have with mediation or working with attorneys can be really helpful here. It shows you're ready to handle the legal side of things, too.
Okay, great to know. Next question from RoleCatcher. How do you stay organized when managing a large volume of foreclosure cases? Wait, didn't we already talk about organization?
We did touch on it, but this is about taking it to the next level. It's
Yeah.
about showing them you can handle a mountain of cases without breaking a sweat.
So like being a superhero of organization.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Talk about your system for staying organized even when you're juggling a ton of cases.
Got it. So it's not just about being organized, it's about being organized on a whole other level.
You got it. Now let's talk about those borrowers who are, well, a little hard to get a hold of. RoleCatcher asks, how do you handle situations where a borrower is unresponsive or difficult to reach?
Ah, yes, the phantom borrower. It's like they disappear into thin air.
It definitely takes persistence and a bit of detective work, but you always want to start with empathy. Remember that this is a really stressful time and not taking it personally is key.
So empathy, even when you're on a tight deadline.
Absolutely. Then you can outline your strategies, calling at different times, sending email, certified mail, whatever it takes to make contact.
And if all else fails, there's always carrier pigeon.
Well, maybe not, but if the job description mentions it, you could talk about skip tracing. But remember to emphasize that it's always a last resort and you would use it ethically and respectfully.
Got it. Empathy and professionalism always win the day. Okay, are you ready for a final interview question from RoleCatcher's Guide?
Get me with it.
All right, here it is. Can you describe a situation where you had to make a difficult decision in a foreclosure case? This one feels heavy.
It is. It's about showing them you can handle the pressure and make tough calls. Choose a situation that highlights your judgment and your commitment to doing what's right.
So walk them through your thought process, what you considered, how you weighed the options, and how you ultimately made your decision.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to talk about the emotional impact. Did it weigh on you? Did it challenge your values? Sharing those personal reflections while still being professional shows that you're not just going through the motions, you really care.
That's such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's about showing them you're human and that you take this work seriously. This deep dive has been amazing. So much great info on ceasing those foreclosure interview questions. But before we move on, let's zoom out for a sec and look at the bigger picture of what it really takes to thrive in this career. Acing the interview is just the beginning, right? What does RoleCatcher's Career Guide have to say about the day-to-day realities of being a foreclosure specialist?
That's a great point. We've talked about nailing the interview, but RoleCatcher also emphasizes the importance of really understanding what this job is all about. It's not just about knowledge and experience. It's about having the right personality, the empathy, and the dedication to help people through a really tough time.
It's about being a light in the darkness.
Exactly. And that takes a special kind of person.
So before you even walk into that interview room, it's important to ask yourself, do I have what it takes to handle not just the technical stuff, but also the emotional weight of this job?
Absolutely, because while the financial and legal aspects are important, the heart of this work lies in the human connection.
And that's not something you can learn overnight.
Ow.
So for our listeners who are drawn to this challenging but ultimately rewarding field, let's break down some of the key skills and knowledge areas that RoleCatcher highlights as essential for success.
The career guide goes into a lot of detail about this, but essentially a successful foreclosure specialist isn't defined by any one skill. It's a combination of expertise, empathy, and the ability to handle complex situations.
Like a multi-talented superhero of the foreclosure world.
Exactly. So let's break it down a bit, starting with the analytical and problem-solving skills that are so crucial in this role.
Because let's be honest, you're constantly analyzing financial situations, looking for solutions, and trying to find the best path forward for everyone involved.
Exactly. You need to be able to look at complex documents, understand financial statements, assess risk, and come up with creative solutions to some pretty challenging problems.
So if you love a good puzzle, thrive on challenges, and can find a needle in a haystack of financial data, this might be your calling.
Absolutely. But don't forget about communication skills. Those are equally important in this line of work.
Because you're not just dealing with numbers, you're dealing with real people facing a really difficult situation.
Exactly. You need to be able to explain complex topics in a way that's easy to understand, and you need to be able to listen with empathy and communicate effectively with everyone involved, lenders, attorneys, the whole team.
It's like walking a tightrope between being assertive and compassionate, knowing when to push for a solution and when to just listen and offer support.
Exactly. And let's not forget about those all-important organization and time management skills. Those are non-negotiable when you're dealing with the kind of workload that comes with being a foreclosure specialist.
Which, as we've already established, is no walk in the park.
Exactly. A successful foreclosure specialist has to be on top of their game, organized, detail-oriented, and able to manage their time effectively to make sure nothing slips through the cracks.
So we've covered the skills, analytical thinking, problem-solving, communication, organization, and time management. But what about knowledge? What kind of things should someone interested in this field be reading up on?
RoleCatcher emphasizes a deep understanding of foreclosure laws and regulations, which, as we've mentioned, can be pretty complex and vary depending on where you are.
So it's not just about the financial side of things. You need a solid grasp of the legal framework as well.
Exactly. A strong foundation in real estate and mortgage lending principles is also super important.
That makes sense, since you're dealing with property values, loan terms, and all the ins and outs of the mortgage industry every day.
Precisely. The more you know about those areas, the better equipped you'll be to guide homeowners through the process and find the best possible solutions.
So it's really a multifaceted role that requires a unique combination of legal, financial, and interpersonal skills. It's fascinating how it all comes together.
It really is. And for those looking to stand out from the crowd, RoleCatcher also highlights some certifications that can give aspiring foreclosure specialists a competitive edge.
Okay, let's talk certifications. What are some credentials that could make a resume really pop?
One that comes up a lot in RoleCatcher's guides is the Certified Foreclosure Specialist, or CFS designation.
That sounds pretty self-explanatory.
It is. Having that CFS certification shows that you really know your stuff when it comes to the foreclosure process, the legal and ethical considerations and best practices for working with homeowners.
It's like a gold star that tells employers, hey, I'm serious about this.
Exactly. Another one to consider, even though it's not specific to foreclosure, is the Certified Paralegal, or CP designation.
Now, that one might not seem as relevant at first glance.
You're right. The CP designation is more general. It covers a lot of different aspects of legal support. But it can be incredibly valuable for foreclosure specialists, especially those who work with a lot of legal documents, research, and client communication.
Because it shows you have a strong foundation in legal principles and procedures, which is definitely important in this field.
Exactly. And depending on what the job requires, other certifications related to real estate mortgage lending or loan modification could also be beneficial.
So it's always a good idea to tailor your certification choices to the specific skills and knowledge that employers are looking for.
Absolutely. And this is another area where RoleCatcher's AI can be a game changer. It can analyze those job descriptions, pick out keywords related to certifications, and even suggest relevant courses or programs to fill in any gaps in your knowledge.
It's like having a personal career counselor in your back pocket, guiding you towards the certifications that will give you that extra edge.
Exactly. And speaking of career paths, it's important to remember that the skills and knowledge you gain as a foreclosure specialist can open doors to a lot of different opportunities in the real estate and mortgage industries.
That's awesome. So it's not just about landing this one job. It's about seeing the bigger picture and all the different career paths that align with your skills and interests.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's career guide actually has a list of alternative job titles that often require similar skills and responsibilities as a foreclosure specialist.
So if you're browsing job boards or networking, keep an eye out for these alternative titles. They might lead you to some unexpected opportunities.
Definitely. Some of the titles they list include loan modification specialist, loss mitigation specialist, and default resolution specialist.
Wow, it sounds like there's a whole world of roles related to foreclosure, each with its own unique focus and area of expertise.
There really is. And the skills you develop as a foreclosure specialist, especially your analytical thinking, your communication skills, and your ability to navigate tough situations, those are all transferable to these other roles.
That's incredibly empowering. So even if you don't end up as a foreclosure specialist, the journey of preparing for this career path can open up a lot of doors.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of lifelong learning and always striving to grow professionally.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the technical side of things, but let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the human element. We touched on empathy earlier, but can you elaborate on what it really takes to navigate the emotional complexities of this role?
You're absolutely right. You can't talk about being a foreclosure specialist without talking about the emotional intelligence and resilience it takes to show up every day for people who are going through a really rough time.
Because let's be real here. Foreclosure is not just a financial transaction. It's
Hmm.
an emotional roller coaster that impacts families, communities, and even the economy as a whole.
Absolutely. And as a foreclosure specialist, you're not just shuffling papers, you're interacting with real people who are facing the possibility of losing their homes, their financial security, and even their sense of stability.
It takes a special kind of person to handle that kind of emotional weight while still staying calm and professional.
You're telling me. It requires a unique blend of empathy, active listening skills, and the ability to stay grounded even when emotions are running high.
So how do you develop that emotional intelligence muscle? Is it something you're born with, or can you learn it?
It's a bit of both, actually. Some people are naturally drawn to roles that involve emotional labor, while others might need to work on developing those skills over time.
So for those who might not be naturally wired for emotionally intense situations,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them if they're considering a career path like this?
That's a great question. I'd say self-awareness is key. You need to understand your own emotional triggers, how much empathy you naturally have, and how well you can regulate your own emotions, especially in challenging situations.
So it's about knowing yourself before you dive into the deep end.
Exactly. It's also crucial to develop strong active listening skills. That means not just hearing the words someone is saying, but really paying attention to their tone, their body language, the emotions behind their words.
It's about creating a space where homeowners feel heard, understood, and supported, even when they're talking about something as difficult as foreclosure.
Exactly. And remember, empathy doesn't mean you have all the answers or that you can fix everything. It's about being present, offering support, and acknowledging the very real challenges that people are facing.
Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just listen with your heart and let people know they're not alone.
I couldn't agree more. And as you navigate this field, just remember that every homeowner, every case, every interaction is unique. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to empathy.
It's about being adaptable, responsive, and in tune with the individual needs of each person you encounter.
Exactly. And that's what makes this profession so rewarding.
It's amazing how much empathy plays a role in a field that's often seen as just numbers and legalities.
It's true. You can't separate the human side from this job. It's about understanding and connecting with people at a really difficult point in their lives.
This deep dive has been so insightful. For our listeners who are ready to pursue this career path, any final words of wisdom?
Believe in yourself. It's challenging, but so rewarding. Keep learning, network with others, and use the resources out there like RoleCatcher. They make it so much easier.
And don't forget those AI tools. They can give you a real edge in this competitive job market.
Absolutely. Now go out there and ace those interviews.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of foreclosure specialists. We hope you're walking away feeling informed and ready to tackle those interview questions. Remember, this career path is more than just a job. It's a chance to make a real difference in people's lives.
Absolutely. And with the right blend of knowledge, empathy, and dedication, you can truly thrive in this field.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.